CX management is in those subtle operational things too. You don't need a grand strategy to know that the feedback says, the salespeople say, the contact center people tell you, customers don't like this. We should get rid of this step. We should stop annoying them with this.
Welcome to Unexpected Journey, the show where each week top professionals share work wisdom and life lessons about their careers and what they have learned about human experience in the workplace. I'm your host, annebibb. This week we have Jeff Sheehan. He is an independent customer experience advisor and consultant. He helps enterprise and middle market clients improve their customer relations and business results using customer experience management. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe and leave your comments below. Now let's get started. Welcome back to Unexpected Journey. This week we have Jeff Sheehan. We have been in the CX world together for quite a while, but have only talked like 2 or 3 times, which is wild to me, how in this world today we can be and interact and be around each other, but not really verbally talk to each other very often.
Yeah, and I'm a fan of that. I love LinkedIn for all kinds of reasons, but more and more in the last, I would say 5 years, I've been on LinkedIn since I think 2015, or actually 2005. I've been on LinkedIn, but only in the last 5 years have I used it to really build community and have real conversation. And now I think I have half a dozen standing calls with people met entirely on LinkedIn, and we're connecting just as you and I are now. And I love that. I love the sharing ideas, the encouragement. And I would also say that the CX community globally is very encouraging, very supportive. And if you need anything, you reach out to that network, and there's going to be more than a few people that would be happy to help. So I love that.
I do too. And I think what's really interesting about it is while it is competitive, we all need business, we all want business, it's not competitive because we all are trying to drive a positive CX movement. And CX is so ever changing.
It's true. And I think, generally speaking, people that are in customer service positions or in the sort of broadest, the category of customer service kind of professions, I think there's an abundance mentality there that you want to serve other people. You want to solve problems. You want to be part of a team and a collaborative effort. And I think the spirit of folks who are in those professions tends to be very generous. And I was in sales for a long time, and I can tell you that in sales, it's very territorial, it's very scarcity, it's very competitive. But in customer experience and customer service, I find it to be very generous and abundant. And and I love that spirit because I feel like that's a part of my personality as well.
Well, and I also think, and tell me if you disagree with this, but I think it also has to do with the fact that CX, very much like technology, is one, rapidly changing due to how quickly the world evolves, but also it's not one size fits all.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I totally agree with you there. With regard to CX, there's a lot of hype, and this is where I'll disagree a little bit. The tech companies have done a wonderful job sort of commanding the narrative around customer experience management. And they have a lot of powerful marketing tools, a lot of powerful personalities that are, putting out a lot of content. And so they really do command the narrative. I'm convinced of that. And so they do make it sound like one size fits all. If you only do this, if you just buy my magic beans, you'll get this instant customer understanding or instant contact center efficiency or whatever, they're selling.
We all like instant.
Yeah, make it simple. But one size doesn't fit all. And if you buy that technology, which is essential, and I know we'll talk about that later, but it's a component of things. You need to sort of have a more, I think, a balanced approach. And in my work in consulting and all my other work in operations and other roles, having a purpose, people, process, having those pillars set up so you know why you're doing something, how you want to do something with that process, and and you want to have the staff with the skills and the capacity to use those tools and so forth. But I think before all that, the sizing of CX, it's very fashionable, as you mentioned, to talk about CX, but you really have to define it operationally for your organization. Who is your customer? I'm astounded when I ask clients, define your customer. We use the word customer as if it is a universal, but when you ask, like, who is your customer, and versus the end user versus the the reseller, the distributor, and so forth. Who is your customer? And you really hone in on understanding that. And then you also appreciate your operating model. Every business goes to market in a certain way and a certain methodology and all the rest of it. So you have to sort of size up your CX program, your customer experience management program, for those realities first. Who is your customer? Who are you serving? How do they want to be served? And CX isn't a fit for everybody. I was on a webinar the other day with Forrester, in fact, and it was mentioned several times that, like, if you embrace CX in your business, meaning, like, it's still optional. You still, like, have to evaluate your own business and say, okay, well, I'm not a CX manager. That's not relevant to us as much as it might be to somebody else. And so really sort of assessing CX, as an approach, as a part of a strategy, and then really operationalizing it from there to fit your business. Lots of sizing to go on there. There's no way one size fits all.
Can you delve into that a little bit? CX is not a fit for everyone. What do you mean? Like, we all? Well, not everybody. The majority of companies have customers. Why would customer experience not be a fit for everybody?
Well, again, I guess the best example I have, the most recent example I have, is I just did a huge project in my backyard, lots of concrete, and the concrete plant that makes that stuff takes orders and they deliver concrete by a cement truck to the site, and then the site gets it to where it needs to go in any number of ways. And so the concrete plant deals with contractors of all kinds, general contractors, small contractors, even individual, like, homeowners. They just make a consistent product. And by the way, I learned a lot about concrete, that it's a very scientific thing. I got a 5-page report signed by the chief chemist at the concrete plant, right?
I have a friend who has a company making concrete, like, counters. It's wild concrete, wild.
Yeah, and there's a whole creative dimension to that concrete business as well. But my point is, it's one size fits all. We mix stuff for certain applications, whether it's building a bridge or building a driveway. There's different specifications for that are prescribed usually by government entities and regulatory entities. We mix it, we deliver it, we schedule it, and that kind of thing. So there's not much of an experience there, and the timing is going to ebb and flow based on how late other people are with their project. So there wasn't a great deal of customer experience management, and the customer service is kind of a mishmash of taking the orders and asking, hey, where's my driver? Because I just poured a truck of concrete and I need my next truck. So, it needs to be here now. But that's a lot different than Apple and their approach to enriching the lives of consumers.
So in that situation, we're talking about customer service management versus customer experience management.
Yeah. Well, customer service being a key aspect in the overall customer experience management. But my point is that it has to be a deliberate choice to embrace customer experience management. Company, you're going to have to deal with finance in a business. You have to know what's coming in and what's going out, and who owes you money and whose bills do you need to pay. And right, that is an essential for every business of any type, anywhere. Customer experience management is less an obligation than it is a choice to innovate and differentiate. And I think there's plenty of examples of people who embrace the buzzword of customer experience management, but they don't operationalize it as if it's really important to the brand experience and the mission, vision, and values of the organization. So there's lip service, and there's the really embracing it to embed it into the organization.
Well, two questions really. How do you determine if you need to implement a CX strategy? And then how do you define CX? Probably flip that. How do you define CX? And then how do you implement a CX strategy within your organization?
Yeah, so defining CX is, again, back to your operating model, the mission, vision, values. Like, who are you as an organization and what are you trying to achieve? If you want to enrich lives for any reason, you're a grocery store, you're a consumer electronics company, you're a pharmaceutical company, you have to understand how you want to connect your brand, what is your brand? What is your purpose, right? And how do you want to connect that to the marketplace that you are engaging? And then more importantly, from a business results perspective, how is the market responding? So if you've got a great product, but it's really hard to get, to purchase it, it's just a lot of friction, it's a lot of inconvenience, it's a lot of complaining about getting it. Like,
I'm out of here. I'm not getting it.
Right. And so that's where customer experience management, and I'll roll into your second question about a CX strategy. I don't think CX needs a strategy of its own. I think often, and I've seen it myself, where having a discrete, separate strategy for CX is at cross purposes with the business strategy and the marketing / branding strategy. I think CX is an enabler. CX management is an enabler of those strategies. It's like if you have the two rails, like a train track. One is business strategy and one is brand strategy. A CX management program would be the train that rides those rails and delivers and enables the delivery of those two strategies. So you need a strategic plan, something that says 5 years from now we're going to be better than we were 5 years ago, and a roadmap for expanding your capacity and capability and your customer understanding and those kind of things. But I wouldn't call it a strategy, because too often that strategy for CX is untied, disconnected, and sometimes at cross purposes competes with the business. And you know that when you try to get your CX stuff done and the business is like, yeah, not interested. I'm fine. I'm hitting my KPIs. I'm going to make my bonus. CX is a distraction. I can't. It's optional to me. So that's how I would tie those two together.
That's actually really well put. I've seen several businesses who talk about needing a CX strategy. We need a CX strategy. We need a CX strategy. But to your point, the business strategy is the CX strategy.
Yeah, I'm absolutely convinced of that. And strategy sometimes can be that highfalutin word that defers actual doing the work. Well, we need a strategy. Well, if you canvas the organization a little bit and you do what I call a CX audit, and you talk to your contact center folks and sales folks and marketing folks and IT folks, and you really understand, like, where do we collect customer feedback data and what do we do with it? And are we burdening our customers with our policy stuff? What we're talking about are the frictions that are avoidable, unnecessary, they're irritating. And oh, by the way, they also cost the organization money. Every phone call costs something, right? Having staff to pick up the phone costs something. It weakens the bond. Counterintuitively, you think more contacts is a stronger relationship, but not for everything. Maybe for medical treatment, but not for getting an estimate on a commodity, right? So you have to really understand your business and your operating model, and then attack those things with your CX management program. And they're very tactical. I mean, they're very specific tactical things that don't require a grand strategy per se. And oftentimes they integrate nicely with other efforts. So if your contact center is trying to do some cost savings, and or trying to reduce the cost of outbound calls, here's an area you can examine and say, well, based on feedback, the outbound calls aren't working. So let's stop doing that for a month and see what happens. Do we convert more sales? Do we get better scores on satisfaction and those kind of that's not, I mean, you might say that's strategic in a long term, lots of pennies in the fountain. Eventually you fill the fountain, but you don't need 6 months of planning to sort those things out. You might need a lot of meetings to figure out the prioritization of effort.
So how along those lines, how do you actually recognize that there is an issue in this area of your organization?
I think the best way is if you're listening to your customer, the outside in customer feedback data, and it will come in through a lot of places. If you're listening to that externally, outside in, customers are telling you where you're broken, where you irritate them, where you disappointed them, where, why they left. I was going to buy, but then I abandoned my shopping cart because I Googled Walmart and I saw that I could save $5 on the same thing, right? Or I Googled Amazon and I went there, whatever it might be. So there's that outside in feedback, but also this is a great area where employee experience meshes incredibly well with customer experience management. Ask the folks that are talking to customers every day. You've got somebody in sales, you've got somebody answering the phone, you've got somebody dealing with complaints, you've got somebody responding to web forms, you've got somebody updating the mobile app and putting in the information about the latest updates, and also reading the feedback and ratings and reviews on the app stores. You've got reviews of this kind and that kind. And I think, generally speaking, people shy away from the negative stuff, particularly in these CX management programs where scores is the goal, right? We're surveying and scoring because we have to have an NPS because our competitor has an NPS. And but I'm not a big fan of that. I think that's a waste of money. I think if you listen to and embrace the constructive feedback, and you've got a chorus of customers selling and employees telling you, we suck here, we could do a better job here. And many of these employees are passionate about fixing things, and they will tell you what they think needs to be done in a very specific way. And if you embrace that, you could be a phenomenally improved organization. And I don't mean just in terms of happy employees, happy customers, which is wonderful, but also those operational indicators of cost and revenue and conversion and all those other metrics of business.
So, you mentioned technology earlier, and there are a lot of, well, first of all, technology has grown significantly and moved by leaps and bounds since 2020. And it continues to do so. But do you think that technology can actually help with the customer experience?
Oh, absolutely, yes. Unequivocally, yes. The thing that I've seen, and I think it's everywhere, right? You see it, as I said, this sort of narrative around CX is largely driven by the powerful tech companies and their marketing engines. But when you get into organizations, oftentimes the technology still has to integrate with the existing technology stack. There's always these other bits and pieces to deal with. You have to have people that understand the technology and how to get the most value out of it. The technology is still expensive, and most of it is software as a service. I think it's generally what we're talking about. But it still requires, an investment. And I think that's where I fall back on the purpose, people, and process pillars. Right? Why are you buying this technology? What is the problem you're solving? What is the, are you future-proofing your organization? Do you have a roadmap to go from implementation day and pilot all the way through 5 years from now when you're using you're in full bloom using everything that platform may be able to help you do. There's a lot of noise about technology, and we hear about AI and all this kind of stuff, and oftentimes these tools have AI built in, and you don't have to get on some buzzword bandwagon. You can just really have to be more focused on what you're trying to achieve. And I find that the IT department generally is, and that the business units generally aren't. Generally, the business units want the buzzwords, and the IT group is more practical and pragmatic. And I just think that technology is not the magic beans, silver bullet, one size fits all. I really strongly believe you've got to have the purpose and established, the people in terms of skill sets and capacity, and the processes to integrate into the business as it works today. Because oftentimes these tools create change, they create disruptive change. COVID, for example, made virtually everyone's contact center and help desk and service desk go virtual. And we hear a lot about working from home, but I think a part of that conversation is the technology enablers of working from home? Has that helped the employee experience or not?
I've been working remotely since the mid 90s.
Hmm.
And what has happened since then to the mid aughts and the teens and now in the 20s is crazy to see the changes, and where we'll be in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years is going to be completely different, because it continuously, just working remotely evolves, much less the technology, the actual culture, customer experience, the overall human experience in the workplace is constantly evolving.
Yeah, it's true. And when you throw the fact that, culturally, when I was living in Ireland, working from home was a very new concept. It was very new to the Irish culture, and it wasn't immediately embraced. Now, after a while, when you realize how many hours you get back into your life each week by not having to commute or get dressed up and powdered up and all that to get in the car to go commute to work, the clothing you can wear.
How much powder are you wearing today, Jeff?
I never tell my beauty secrets. Never share. I'm very stingy about that kind of insight.
I respect, man, respect.
Appreciate the ask, though. I take it as a big compliment. But once people begin to see like how flexible, like I could walk my dog at lunch, I could go to my child's school event, I could this or that, right? I could look after my own health with a yoga session or a chat with a friend or something. Things that you couldn't do necessarily at work, but it wasn't embraced wholeheartedly at first. It was an evolution of understanding, oh, this could work out for me and for the employer. And now you're seeing companies that spent literally in Ireland and in Dublin. There's a part of the city where a number of big software companies. Facebook built a 5,000 employee campus. Google spent millions and millions of euro on this beautiful campus. HubSpot spent 75 million euro on their European headquarters. And now they're trying to drag people back into these buildings, these shiny temples of, of their brand. And but people are very comfortable working elsewhere.
So going kind of back to what both of us do, right? We are both consultants. We both have our own consulting and advisory firms, and we both specialize and work heavily in the CX space. So what is the benefit of hiring a CX consultant?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think there's several benefits. One is, you get a very good outside perspective, and that outside perspective also brings with it lots of other experiences with other clients. So you may have seen this issue and treated it in another engagement. You may be working in a similar industry. You may be working with a competitor, which can be a little delicate, but you have an authority. You have some insight. So you can bring all that from an outside perspective to a client who can use the benefit of that. Like, you're there to solve a problem. And oftentimes customers have very clear about what the problem is. And oftentimes not just clear about what the problem is, but the path, the things to do to fix it. But what's missing is a commitment or a consensus or the time or capacity or skill set. So all those things can be brought to bear using a consultant. The other thing is cost and time, right? So you have an expertise. You can jump in for an hourly fee or a flat fee or however your fees are structured. You're not a full-time employee. You don't have to assimilate to the culture, but you can accelerate time to solving things, and you can do it in many cases much more cost effectively. The other thing is skills. Like, a lot of consultants have the latest skills, and oftentimes people are engaging consultants to fill a skill gap. So whether it's a technology skill gap or a regulatory compliance skill gap, design thinking kind of thing, some sort of low density, high impact skill set that you want immediate access to. Consultants are great for that. And then, I would say lastly is that sort of sociology reason, right? Um, Consultants are not bought into the corporate political stuff, whatever that is, right? There's no agenda, there's no favoritism, there's no ass kissing, there's no fear of not getting promoted, or fear of failure. And oftentimes consultants can be used as a good scapegoat, right?
I'm going to add one more in there.
What's that?
Fractional. I've seen a huge uptick, not just in the CX area, but in operational, fractional CEO, fractional CTO, all kinds of fractional needs, especially for startups and mid-markets, recently acquired, so on and so forth. The fractional need of the C-suite and even BD team members is huge right now. So that fractional need falls into that category, I think. What do you agree with that?
I do. Yeah, I think it's I sort of cover that in the cost, time thing, but yeah, to engage a consultant as a fractional CX leader, for example, or customer experience executive, absolutely a powerful use of a consultant.
Last but certainly not least, Jeff, if somebody is wanting to follow in your footsteps, they see what you've accomplished over the years and where you are today, and they're sitting here watching and saying, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to be. What would you tell them today?
That is a really, really great question, and I'm humbled by the question. I think what I would say is, there's a quote from Steve Jobs that I love, and I'm paraphrasing, but basically he says, when you move through your life, there's these points in your life experience that really don't make sense. You really can't connect the dots until some years after. And you have to look back, and then you can see, okay, well, I got laid off from this job, but that opened the door for this job, which opened the door for this job, which was the reason I met this person who gave me an opportunity over here. And it's really in hindsight, like now at this season of my work life, that I can look back and really connect those dots. So the thing that I would say is, a lot of people, particularly young people, think, as I did, that there's a career ladder, and it's this very linear structure that you go up a logical set of rungs to get to the place you want to go to as a career. And I don't know too many people who've ever done their work life that way, that clear ladder climbing kind of progression. Most people I know, we work where we ended up, and meaning there's a lot of dots in your past that when you look back, you can actually connect. You may have left the workforce to have children. You may have, done this or done that. And then you look back and you go, wow, this all adds up. And so my answer to your question would be, round out your career with as much experience as you can. Being a generalist and having a broad set of experiences in business, understanding how things get sold, how things get marketed, how finance works, how logistics works, what's operational excellence, technology. All these dimensions and aspects are crucial to a CX leader's effectiveness. You really have to understand that.
So Jeff, if somebody wanted to reach out to you, what is the best way for them to do so?
The best way is my LinkedIn page. And here's a secret that I find not enough people paying attention to. In my LinkedIn page, there's contact. There's a little in the headline near my photo. There's a little link that contact, and in it will be my email address and my phone number. So it's all there on my LinkedIn page. You can reach me on InMail. You can reach me in a message if we're already connected. You've got my email address and my phone number there. So LinkedIn is absolutely the best place to go to find me.
Perfect. And as always, we will have a link to that in the description below and on the screen. So you will see that. And Jeff, thank you for joining us this week. Really appreciate you being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks so much for the invitation, Anne. I appreciate it. I had a fun time. I hope whoever's listening enjoys something out of it. And if there's any feedback, I would love to hear back from you. As is appropriate for CX conversations of any kind, getting some feedback, even if it's disagreement with anything I've happened to say or anything like that. all too eager to engage folks with that conversation.
There you go, everybody. Please, he's opened the door. Reach out on LinkedIn. Feedback, good and bad, for either of us. As you all see, we have taken your feedback each week in order to make this episode and every episode hereafter better. And we look forward to seeing you again next week. As we wrap the episode up, we would like to take this time to thank you for joining us this week on Unexpected Journey. Our guest information will be linked in the episode description, along with a link to our company website, remoteevolution.com, and our host website, annebibb.com. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share on your favorite podcast app and on our YouTube channel so that you never miss an episode and we can continue to bring them to you. Let us know your thoughts on what we discussed in the comment section. And once again, thank you for joining us. We hope to see you again next week